There is a particular kind of confidence that comes from paying cash, or from using a prepaid card you bought at a corner store, or from sending cryptocurrency to a merchant that accepts it. The confidence that, because you did not hand over your name, because no bank account is involved, because no signature went on a receipt, your identity is not connected to that transaction. It is a specific and deeply human confidence, the sense that the physical world, or the cryptographic world, has provided you with the same privacy people used to take for granted in daily life. That confidence is mostly wrong. Not completely, not always, but consistently enough that treating anonymous payment methods as genuinely anonymous, in the way a user typically means that word, produces reliable disappointment when investigated. I want to walk through exactly how each of the main anonymous payment methods leaks identity in practice, because the gap between the design intent and the deployment reality is where most of the failures happen, and understanding that gap is what lets you make more accurate decisions about when privacy actually exists. Start with cash, which is the baseline. Cash is genuinely private at the moment of handoff. The buyer's identity is not encoded in the currency. The transaction does not generate a digital record at the payment layer, and the merchant does not have a database entry tied to the buyer's name. In a narrow sense, cash is the most private mainstream payment method that has ever existed. But the physical environment around a cash transaction is no longer private in the way it used to be. The store has cameras. The cameras cover the register, the entrance, the parking lot. Many retailers use license plate readers in their lots, either directly or through third-party services that aggregate plate reads across many retailers. Facial recognition has entered commercial retail at varying levels of openness. Some chains have explicitly rolled it out for loss prevention. Others use it quietly. Others use it through vendors that aggregate face data across customer bases. Stores with self-checkout use additional cameras pointed at the transaction. Stores with loss prevention systems use motion and pattern analysis that builds profiles of shoppers by appearance, gait, and shopping behavior. The cash transaction itself does not encode your identity. The environment captures your identity through other channels, and the cash transaction timestamps your presence in that environment to the second. Retailer-specific technologies deepen this. Shopping apps installed on your phone that offer loyalty points, digital receipts, or store-specific payments often interact with in-store Bluetooth beacons or Wi-Fi access points that identify your phone when you're in the store. Apps that request location permission broad enough to track you near the store associate your identity with your presence there. Credit card co-branded apps do the same, even if you paid. In cash, your phone has been telling the store you were there, and the store systems have correlated that presence with the cash transaction by time. Then there is the currency itself. Serialized bills are traceable in the narrow sense that serial numbers are recorded at certain points in the banking system and under specific investigative conditions. Tracking of individual bills has been used in bait money and known criminal transactions. For ordinary transactions, this is not a typical concern, but for larger cash withdrawals and deposits, the Bank Secrecy Act and similar regulations in most jurisdictions require financial institutions to report transactions above certain thresholds to authorities. Withdraw enough cash at once, and your withdrawal is on record. Deposit enough, and the same applies. Now, prepaid cards, sometimes called gift cards, sometimes called open-loop prepaid debit cards, depending on the product. These vary dramatically in their anonymity properties. A store-specific gift card, purchased with cash, used in the same retailer's ecosystem, is relatively anonymous with respect to the payment flow. The retailer knows a gift card was used, and may associate the card with loyalty activity, but the card itself was not registered to a person. If the purchaser used the store's app or loyalty program, the anonymity degrades at the purchase point. An open-loop prepaid Visa, or MasterCard, which can be used anywhere those networks are accepted, is a different beast. These cards operate on the same rails as regular credit and debit cards. The card network sees every transaction, records the merchant, records the amount, records the time, and, through the merchant's processor, often records additional data about the transaction context. The cardholder identity is not attached at the issuer level for unregistered cards, but in the United States and most other developed, Jurisdictions' Know Your Customer regulations have substantially narrowed the availability of truly unregistered, reloadable prepaid cards. Most reloadable prepaid products now require identity verification at some stage. Non-reloadable single-use prepaid cards remain more anonymous, but many retailers that sell them now capture buyer identity through their own surveillance infrastructure. And the cards are often activated against the purchaser's phone or browser if registration is required for use. When a prepaid card is used online, additional identity fingerprints attach to every transaction. The IP address making the purchase, the browser fingerprint if web-based, the device fingerprint if app-based, the email address used for receipts or account creation, the shipping address for physical goods. Any of these can be enough to link a prepaid card's usage to a specific person through third-party data brokers or through the merchant's own records. Physical use has its own leaks. A prepaid card used at a point-of-sale terminal in a specific store at a specific time can be linked to surveillance footage of whoever used it. If the cardholder is a regular at that location or a regular user of that card, patterns emerge. Several documented law enforcement cases have used precisely this technique to identify holders of supposedly anonymous prepaid cards. Cryptocurrency gets its own section because the privacy claims are complex. Bitcoin is not anonymous. It is pseudonymous at best, and in practice its pseudonymity is weak. Bitcoin transactions are public. Every address's balance and transaction history is visible on the blockchain. Chain analysis firms have built enormous databases that cluster Bitcoin addresses by heuristics and link clusters to real-world entities through exchange cooperation, on-chain behavior, and off-chain data. The default assumption should be that any Bitcoin address used for consumer payments is, with modest investigative effort, linkable to an identity. The privacy-focused cryptocurrencies, Monero in particular, offer stronger protocol-level privacy, but leak identity through metadata and through the ends of transactions where they interact with exchanges, wallets, and services. Acquiring Monero usually requires interacting with an exchange that knows your identity. Spending Monero often requires converting it at a merchant processor that knows its own customer. The middle is cryptographically protected. The ends are known. For any cryptocurrency, the network layer leaks additional identity. The IP address your wallet uses to broadcast transactions is visible to the peer nodes it connects to. Without Tor or a similar overlay, that IP is associated with every transaction you originate. For a wallet used regularly, this produces a reliable identity signal independent of any chain analysis. Services that accept cryptocurrency from customers typically require shipping addresses, email addresses, or account registrations. The cryptocurrency is the payment channel. The identity flows around the edges of the payment. Peer-to-peer cash to crypto exchanges exist and have been a popular route for acquiring cryptocurrency with less identity friction. These involve meeting someone in person, in many cases, which carries its own in-person identity exposure. Online peer-to-peer exchanges have been increasingly subject to regulatory pressure, and many have added identity verification or been shut down. Cash-reloaded virtual currencies in game ecosystems or in specialized services like Steam Wallet have been used as quasi-anonymous payment tools. These are limited in what they can buy, and the services themselves usually require account identity verification at some level. The anonymity is usable for narrow purposes. Then there is the tool of gift card laundering, where a scammer or money mover buys gift cards with illicit funds and resells them. This is a common fraud vector, and it is a strong signal to law enforcement whenever it appears. Gift card resale platforms have identity verification requirements. Large-scale gift card purchases trigger retail fraud alerts. Bank-adjacent anonymous payment methods, including some privacy-focused prepaid products, operate in a regulatory space that has narrowed substantially over the past decade. Most jurisdictions now require identity verification for any reloadable card above certain balance thresholds, for any peer-to-peer payment system that operates at scale, and for any service that functions as a de facto bank. Privacy-preserving payment products exist in research contexts and in a few specialized consumer products, but the combination of regulation and market pressure has kept them at the margins. Here is a concrete pattern that illustrates how even small identity leaks compound. You want to buy something online without linking the purchase to your main identity. You buy a prepaid card at a store, paying cash. You carry it home. You create a new email address for this purchase. You use the prepaid card online from your home IP through your regular browser. You have the item shipped to your home. What actually leaked? The store you bought the card from captured you on camera at a specific time. Your phone, if present, logged your location. The prepaid card activation process may have asked for a zip code, which you provided. The new email address was created from your home IP, from a browser whose fingerprint is stable. Your payment on the website used the same home IP, the same browser fingerprint, and a shipping address that resolves to your identity. The email address is linked to the same IP as your main accounts. The purchase is linked through the shipping address, the IP, the browser fingerprint, and the email. The cash card did its job. It did not add your payment identity to the purchase. Everything else added your identity anyway. To achieve actual anonymity in a purchase of any complexity, the payment is one of many layers that all have to be addressed. A different identity, a different network path, Tor, or a clean VPN with caveats, a different browser profile, ideally a different device, a different shipping address if physical goods are involved, which is often the hardest leak to close, a different email identity maintained separately, a different phone number if SMS verification is involved, which requires a separate anonymous SIM, which in most jurisdictions is itself difficult to obtain. The payment method is the most visible part of the stack, which is why marketing focuses on it. It is not the largest part of the stack. For most people, the practical question is not how to achieve perfect payment anonymity, but how to reduce the number of unnecessary identity linkages. Using cash where cash is accepted reduces the record at the financial institution layer. Using separate cards for separate contexts reduces cross-merchant correlation. Using privacy-respecting merchant services where available reduces the quality of data brokers' profiles. Using a VPN for online purchases in contexts where IP tracking concerns you reduces one specific leak. None of these produce anonymity in the absolute sense. All of them reduce the friction-free identity correlation that makes modern surveillance economics work. The broader truth is that payment anonymity was a property of cash in a world of paper records and limited surveillance. The payment instruments have evolved. The surveillance around them has evolved more. The places where you spend money now observe you through more channels than ever before, most of which do not involve the payment itself. The card, or the cash, or the cryptocurrency is one signal. The camera, the phone, the network, the email, the address, the timing, the pattern are all additional signals, and any one of them can be enough to undo what the payment method was supposed to hide. Anonymous payment methods still leak identity because identity, in a digital society, is not a single attribute attached to a transaction. It is a constellation of fragments scattered across dozens of systems, and a sufficiently motivated observer does not need your name on the card. They need any one of the fragments, and the odd connections between fragments do the rest of the work. The next time someone tells you a payment method is anonymous, full stop, without qualification, that is not a statement about the payment method. It is a statement about how much of the rest of the system they have not thought about.